Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today, I just want to tell you many things about this live Free to Be show. First and foremost, as you know, many of us are homeschooling or schooling at home or virtual schooling or some hybrid of this. In my case, I've always been a homeschooler, so I have the benefit of my children just coming through. So be prepared for that. Second of all, my guest is in Stuttgart, Germany, and ending a meeting, so she will be joining us shortly. But while we're waiting, let me tell you a little bit about the live Free to Be show. Now, you may be familiar with my Free to Be podcast, and season 1 just ended. It was an amazing season, but season 2 is going to be even better. And I'm going to kick that off with the first episode on October 7th. However, going forward, for every other episode, I will be going live prior to on the Mondays. So expect on Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will go live with the guest who will be in the pre-recorded podcast on Wednesdays. And I'm so excited about this change, but I'm not going to tell you who the first podcast guest will be and who the first live kickoff person will be, but it will be a grand announcement. So you want to stay to the end of today's live show for the grand reveal. So again, I'm waiting for Elizabeth Lembke to join us. She is ending her meeting, like I said. So I'll tell you a little bit about why I'm interviewing her and how we met a little bit, and then you'll get to enjoy our conversation shortly. So Elizabeth Lembke is someone who I met recently through a Humans First Value Through Vulnerability podcast. And we just hit it off instantly. And she's just come into the studio, and I'll pop her up on the screen in a minute, but I'm going to embarrass her first since she's late. And I'm going to go ahead and read her bio and tell you how awesome she is and what she's doing to powerfully impact the world. So she is Chief Talent Navigator at Transforming Talent, a globally and virtually active consultancy specializing in people and culture solutions. She has over 15 years of experience in strategic and hands-on human resources, formerly heading up talent and learning for a charge of 7,000 employees across 11 countries and through 5 major M&A integrations. Okay, so she's a badass, right? Her successful practice of total talent management for the ins, outs, and get this one, and acrosses makes her a vocal devil's advocate for talent. Academically, her background is in work, and I'm going to botch this because I never pronounce this word correctly. Pedagogical, see, I called that, and cultural psychology. Basically, she works with kids. And she's a frequent collaborator and instigator, that I know for sure, in future forward learning talent and employer branding arenas. She's originally from the USA, but for some reason she wants to live in Germany. Let's find out about that. Okay, Liz, are you ready?
Set to jet. Lovely.
Welcome. How you doing?
I am good.
I love that.
I am good. Yes. You caught me. I'm like, I have to go. I have to stop training now.
No worries. So yeah. I'm super excited to tell everyone about your L&D Cares Growth Summit. But before that, is there anything that I missed in your bio? Anything you want to add?
So the other thing that you neglected to mention is that we have an affinity for our alma maters. That they make us. They're part of who we are.
Yes,
they're part of who we are, and we take pride in that.
100%.
I love it. Well, I'm so honored to be here, Cordelia. You have no idea. And like you said, it's like what, 3-4 weeks ago that we met. And you were meant to be in my world. It was one of those special situations where it's just all about serendipity. Cordelia and I were in the waiting room waiting on a third guest, and we both immediately started riffing on ideas as to what he could be doing alternatively rather than being with us in the room.
That was so rich. Oh my gosh. Oh, and you actually, you know what, you guys, that conversation went live last week on September 10th, right? So the missing person, shall we reveal who that was? No. That's right. He rides a skateboard, so like, I don't know.
Yes, exactly. You all are really smart. You can probably figure that one out.
Yeah. So as you can see, we have amazing energy together, and with someone like Liz, this she's the brainchild. This is her brainchild, right? The summit. So tell us how you came up with this. I mean, I know that you have like all those years of background and human resources and all those things, but like, really, what are you trying to do right now?
Thanks. So yeah, one of my things that really irritates me is when people complain about something, but then they don't actually do something about it. So that's the stick in my widget. So
high five. Yeah.
So the whole idea, so this piece around what are we doing? How do we improve the process of looking for our next role, of looking for that next step in where we're growing? And oftentimes, when we get to that point of, okay, I either want to leave my job, or here in the pandemic, we're being forced to leave our jobs. And it's a unique time that we can actually stop and ask ourselves, what's our magic sauce? But instead, what happens is that the looking for a job becomes a really soul-sucking and horribly debilitating and very harsh process, because there are I don't know what I'm actually skilled at. You're in your job, you're in that world. You know what makes you successful. You know what the challenges are. And your job is basically designed in that organization. And all of a sudden you're asked, what are your skills? Can you do the X, Y, Z? And what is even out there? So it's that first piece of even understanding what can you do before you even figure out what do you want to do. And I think, in my not so humble opinion, that oftentimes people rush in and they're just like, okay, I'll apply. LinkedIn, there's that quick apply. And then because you're not necessarily a fit for what that job is actually looking for, you get rejections. And rejection upon rejection upon rejection makes you really sad, or makes most people sad. And there's a little bit of the defeat, rather than saying, what could we do to make the talent matching process not only more effective, not only more efficient, but could it be actually an enriching process? So flipping the script, asking a different question is to say, if we were to redesign this, if we were to rethink this, could we co-create a better path forward? And so this L&D Cares is a group which is a brainchild that basically happened. Brandon Carson, I met him because I was getting a group together for learning and talent management, saying, okay, how's this going to change in the COVID era? Because people still need learning. They still need to be developed.
Yep.
So how is the world changing? And he said, well, I'm going to be setting up this group for learning professionals, helping those who are displaced through the pandemic find different roles. And so he got published in Forbes before we even had our first meeting. So that's a really good impetus to say, let's make So, and it has been such an incredible process because we're all volunteers. That's the funny thing. When we apply for anything, they're like, well, where's your nonprofit status? I'm like, we don't have any staff. This is us.
Yeah. It's us.
It's us. It's us. So it's that aspect that, we're across 12 different time zones. From Warsaw to Hawaii, and from Stuttgart to Atlanta, and everything in between. And from that one idea, from that one email, it's really come into this piece that we have the idea of how can we think of ourselves as a honeycomb of support for one another.
That's good.
Yeah, because it's that piece, we're all connected. So we all have relationships. There's different things that need to be done. The world of work is changing. How are we helping folks consider what are the upskilling that needs to happen? Where do we have that confidence in the pedagogy? You got that. So adult learning. At times it does feel like with kids.
What's the difference?
And to say, okay, here, how can we help that process? So helping foster connections, where are there openings, where there's a potential fit for someone, where they might be able to go into, because oftentimes, we know that 2 out of 3 jobs are done via relationships. And I was just in a chat with a bunch of my sourcing and recruiting friends that were asking, how'd you guys find your jobs? And like 90% of them were like, network, via my network. And it's that challenge, because how do you find out that the job opened? It's usually someone says, hey, did you see this? Or, maybe you guys are better at your LinkedIn job pop-up. I'm still getting like supply chain warehouse supervisor. I'm like, okay, that has something to do with talent. I do talent pipeline. So
it's in the neighborhood, but not really. Yeah.
Right. It's adjacent. So, so this piece to say, how are we fostering people getting to know each other? Because one of the things that we crowdsourced is that people often felt icky when they were suddenly out of a job and had to then look to the aspect of networking, and that it seemed very, very transactional. And how can we foster that aspect of social competence of networking, is that it's not about how will I use you, it's that piece to say, how can we make some magic together?
And so I want to stop you there, because let's talk about that for a minute. What I'm hearing overwhelmingly is people need to develop their soft skills, right?
Yes.
Because I think we don't network well. There's all these webinars and whatnot about networking. I made an announcement that I may have kids coming through. So that was a kid coming through. And so you're right. It does get to be very transactional. And instead of reaching back, right, you go to your LinkedIn every 2 years, and you're just like, oh, let's see, who do I know? Scrolling. I'm looking for a job. Can you help me out? First we start out, hey, how you doing? Do you have kids yet? Oh, that's great. So I'm looking for a job. Nope.
Yeah. So true. Yeah.
And it's just a real lack of understanding personal relationships. But how do you overcome that, and how do you teach that?
Well, I think, and also there's a lot of
help people to develop that.
Well, one thing, and that's also why a lot of HR folks aren't even on LinkedIn. That's one of my practices. I'm like, here it's social competence. It's that piece around how are we. So I think you're exactly right. It's that piece of how do you engage with someone by actually being interested in them as a person, not what they can do for you. And I think that is the first premise you have to start out with, is that a relationship on LinkedIn, and particularly during this pandemic, it's been brought more and more to the forefront, is support me, don't sell to me. And so I think perhaps where even just in November, people would have like lied, said, okay, no, we're not going to do this. Here, they're going to actually respond to you and say, hey, stop trying to sell me something. Because we are becoming more aware, thank goodness, of the humanity and that we have lives beyond what we're doing at work and performing at work. And so when we're looking around how do we network, it's really what are you interested in? What are the things that you find interesting? Where can you, I hate this term and I can't right now think of a different term, is how do you add value to the conversation? And I think it's awful, but please tell me a different way to say it. But to say, what are you excited about? What's your passion? What are you interested in? What are you curious about? And how can that, having a conversation and networking over those aspects to say, hey, how can we foster this, moving this aspect forward in a positive and proactive way? Or to say, hey, I'm in town and I want to get some ice cream. You got your mask ready to go.
Well, I mean, what comes to mind for me is how do you create joy in your day, right?
Yes.
What do you, right? Instead of man, what I was hating, I would get these messages like, stay safe out there. I hope you're doing okay in these times, these challenging times. I'm like, hey, how'd you create joy today?
Yes.
It's
absolutely.
Change the conversation, change the energy, change what you're bringing to that, right? So it's kind of like adding value. So it sounds like your summit is really going to be like a networking event. Am I right? Is it live?
Absolutely. It's live 3 days. So the thing is, it's portioned into different elements because I'm sorry, you're balancing kids. People are balancing their jobs. So this is
really,
I know, right? Crazy. So it's designed that, it starts out with an opening and then we have an opening talk to kind of settle it in. And then we have an opening panel where it's different perspectives. Day 1, it's on the now of work and learning. Day 2, it's on the future ready, future of work. Is this fit for purpose? And third day is co-creation. So it always starts with a panel discussion and a workshop to say, and what are you seeing from that? So we'll ask the different groups like HR tech vendors, what are you seeing from that? Job seekers, what are you seeing from that? Recruiters, what are you seeing from that? And then bringing it all together. So that's how we start. And then we go into an hour-long break where we have different things that are coming in. I know, right? So the tool we're using, Remo, it looks essentially like a Marriott or a Hilton. So it has all of these different tables. And then when people come to a table and it's not in presentation mode, they see each other just like you and I see each other.
Oh, how cool is that? I want to come. I want to come. Wait, I'm coming.
Exactly. In all 3 days, please. Because we're all doing co-creation. I know you're doing something really awesome about co-creation this week as well. So yes.
Yeah.
So it starts out always with a panel and a workshop to say, okay, how are we seeing that? And then there's a focus presentation on each day afterwards, after that break when we come together. And then we go into tracks. So we have, every day we have 4 tracks. So the first one is on business impact. The second one maybe
I am paying attention. I just have a visitor, so I'm gonna
You do that. I love it. It reminds me of like Pink Panther or like the Muppet Show. You're the wonderfulest. Okay, so to continue on, so like career transitions, perspectives, hiring managers, L&D, recruiters, and HR. And so these different tracks, and in each track, there's 3 different discussions. And then people can go in and listen to a track. And then basically, just like we're all adults here, you choose to where you want to go. And so this is that aspect of, we've left it up to each one of the moderators and the speakers to design their session how they see fit. Because this is that aspect of, there's not just one best way. And how do we foster good conversations by bringing a unique group of people into the room is the whole idea. So, and then it ends each evening with a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of fun. So we are finally going dancing together.
That's right. Okay. You're my dancing queen.
We got Anna on the up. All right. Exactly. We may switch.
Oh, Assalamu alaikum. This is Askarini from Indonesia. Today we have Elizabeth Lembke and Strujuk. I just botched that up. I can't speak German. In Germany also. And we're talking about her summit. It's L&D Cares Growth Summit. And so that's the conversation today. The summit is actually September 23rd through 25th. And I will be posting the link below this video on YouTube and on Facebook so everyone can register. It's free to register. And it's a great, I think, lead up to the summit that I'll be doing the end of the month. So let's talk a little bit about that. So like within the mix, right? So we're looking for a job and we're in this, this era where we're finally realizing, did you know that we have like unconscious bias and race problems? Did you know that? Oh my
yeah. Wait, let me get my calendar out. What day is today?
It looks like we're in like 2020, like the 21st century, but like,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when people apply, so like going back to your point about people applying for jobs, getting rejected, there's this special part of rejection where sometimes when your name is Cordelia Gaffar, they're like, ooh, that's a weird name. I don't know if I want to even, does she speak English? Right.
Yeah.
And, or she hasn't worked in 16 years. Why is that? What's up with the gap? You know, so are those some of the things that will come up also?
100%. And I think that, you know, as we look to portfolio careers, as we look to what's that curiosity, as we look to what is continuous learning, there's that aspect to say that expertise and ability look a lot different. Okay. There's not just one form, fit, or mold. And that aspect of where did you go to school? Here, what's your background? Can I pronounce your last name? All of these pieces, you know, this is the challenge of unconscious bias training. Absolutely, it's important, but what's the effect? Do I really understand? How am I changing things? And one of the things is, for me, is what are those micro signals? What are those small signals that we send out where it's not inclusive? And how are we also voicing, how am I being included? And so how are we having better conversations so that it's not just, oh, diversity and inclusion, we need a training on that. Because when we have a training, then we'll tick the box and it's all done. Rather than saying we have to go about this systemically and to understand, okay, I'll just take an example, performance reviews. What is the language of performance reviews, a woman versus a man? Okay, we'll just take the simplest thing. Don't even get me started when talking about different backgrounds, different religions, etc. Where, as you know, probably better than I do, the situation looks a lot worse. But just taking it on those two pieces as to what's the language used? Is a woman aggressive, whereas a man is
assertive?
Yeah. Or if he doesn't say it, that he's not assertive enough. So it's that piece to say we can't just assume that because we have the metrics on diversity, that has anything to do with the actual experience that someone has at work, that they can belong, that they can, and for me, it's not only about belonging, because I think that's a danger of groupthink, that we forget that psychological safety means that you can be brave enough to have your own voice, to say, hey, I want to be included in this, or hey, who do we need to include in this? So those are the touchy pieces where when we're talking about really having good plurality, it's in the people that we have, it's in the thoughts that we're able to express, and it's how we're able to have, like you said before, how did you bring joy today? So how are we able to have constructive conversations because we're getting things onto the table, because we're having actual real conversations? rather than the very limiting defensive mode, where we feel like if we're put into a corner, that we're going to defend things, even if that's not even what we're talking about. And so I think when we are looking about inclusion, being included, being able to listen and with the heart to actually want to understand, it's coming from a very different place. And it's also when we're looking at the ability to innovate, to evolve, and to say, is this fit for purpose? That is the place where the beauty and the magic happen, is if you have a team of people working very constructively and collaboratively, that's when they know where they're heading towards, and that there's respect for those different voices and for one's own voice, and having the confidence to bring one's own voice into the mix. That's when the beauty can happen. And so as I look to learning, because I think learning plays a huge role in terms of how are we fostering good allyship? How are we fostering good civil courage? How are we fostering good questions to say, okay, here we have on LinkedIn a picture of what Black Lives Matter, for example, or Pride Month. But when you ask the individual employees, what's it like to work there? They say, I can't believe that they put this on the banner. So how do you deal with that disconnect in a constructive manner so that there can be continual improvement? Because it's that aspect to say we are most definitely not there where we need to be. But I think this year, even though it has been horribly trying and very traumatic, it has also really created a different ground so that people understand, yes, we do need to do movement here. Yes, Black lives really do matter, and that this is not just something that you can ignore. And to say, okay, what can we do? And what is the responsibility as employers, as HR, as leaders, but also as fellow colleagues or as female colleagues, to help one another and to support in one another so that it can happen. Because for me, my whole why is, how do we make people's life at work enjoyable so that they really do find fulfillment, that they feel like, okay, I have an impact, I'm able to grow, the relationships are enriching. Because there's going to be frustrations, there's going to be things that really suck, there's going to be things that you really don't like. But if those aspects, if those three aspects of fulfillment are there, then there's a different joy that we bring in, because there is a really fun piece to contribute and using your brain, using your heart, using your energy, and bringing that together with other people is a piece of magic. And so that's where personally I see the importance of the discussion of moving away from unconscious bias training, which is just like put a Band-Aid on it.
Very clinical. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's very transactional. And it's like, you're never going to get rid of bias. It's important to become aware of it. 1,000,000%. Absolutely. But the buck does not stop there.
No, it seems like, I mean, this summit's going to be really beneficial on so many levels, because it's not going to just tick the box of talking about soft skills, but we'll actually be implementing and utilizing it throughout the summit, and practicing what it is to do the deep listening and come from a place of compassion and have a different conversation, which I'm hoping, and I'm sure that's part of your vision, is that these learning individuals who develop the trainings will integrate that into their curriculums instead of making it such a clinical thing when we're talking about allyship. And and of course, I'm going to bring to the table the importance of replenishing yourself, which is totally a soft skill, because when you are not showing up as an employee from a place of overflow, you cannot perform, and everything seems worse, right? So it could be a thing where, it's quite possible maybe they don't have anything wrong with my last name, and they don't have anything wrong with me being Muslim, but I'm showing up from a place of overwhelm because, me and my husband were disagreeing on, who's going to do the virtual schooling today while I go in the office for 2 hours for this meeting. So I'm coming with baggage, right? And so I show up and someone's just like, oh, wow, orange scarves today. And I'm just like immediately, oh my God, see, here they go, right? But no, that's not what happened. That's not even what happened. They were just like, you look cute, you know?
And it's the filters that get done through our head, because and it's also that piece. That's why it's like, okay, what's my own self-acceptance? And like you said, replenishment. How do I see myself as valuable? That's where we have to start first, and replenishing also those stores, because it is important, and forgiving ourselves at times.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, what a powerful summit. I'm so excited. What am I talking about again? Wait, what's my topic? Look, I knew what I'm talking about. So I just told you what I'm talking about.
No matter what you talk about, Cordelia, it's going to be awesome.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And, I just want to thank you for, bringing this to the table. And it's a different conversation, of course, like I said, I think it's, Vivian Aqua, right? And
yeah.
You guys are Twitter friends.
We'll just move that other word to the side.
Yes, right. Oh, yeah. Like, why do you have to say that right now? Like, okay. Focus. So, Vivian, Aqua has the Amplified DEI the last week of September. And so, when you came to me with, can you speak at my summit too? I'm like, yeah, it's totally aligned. It's 100% aligned. So I want to invite you to attend the L&D Cares Career Growth Summit, September 23rd through 25th. I will be posting the link below. It will be a live summit where we get to like hang out and have real conversations and implement all the things that we're talking about. We're not just doing lip service.
Yeah.
And then of course, attend the summit the next week also, where you're going to just add to the foundation that Elizabeth is providing us next week. So I want to thank you so much for, bringing this platform and for coming on the live Free to Be show. Give us some closing thoughts on anything you want to share.
Well, for me, it's a huge honor. So I couldn't thank you more. It was a real joy to come on the show. So, and to your point of the people coming together. So that we have like 67 speakers. So the beauty in people saying yes, knowing that, we have no organization. There's nothing getting paid. We're not doing any sponsorship. It's really about how do we have constructive conversations that help bring us forward. So if you're in the learning space, if you're a recruiter, if you're in anything with HR and HR technology or professional organization, you say, what can we do to make the talent matching process actually enriching and better? Awesome. We'll see you next week.
Beautiful. So thank you so much for being here. And as I promised, at the end of this live broadcast, I'm doing the grand reveal for the next live Free to Be show. Who will my guests be? So to kick off the season 2 of the Free to Be podcast, I will have Davina Kaur, who is the too loud, too fat, too sexy brilliant, hashtag sexy brilliant. And she's going to be my guest on October 5th. So you don't want to miss that.
Awesome.
All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And I'll see you next week at the summit.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks, Cordelia.
Thank you.